The first time I met Mama Grace, I thought she was royalty. It wasn't because she wore a crown, though she certainly acted like she did, but because she carried herself with the air of someone who believed the world was her stage. Her voice always boomed an octave louder than necessary, her perfume was so strong you could taste it, and she spoke with a slow, deliberate elegance that made you feel as though she were granting you an audience. I married her son, Daniel, 2 years ago. Back then, I thought his quiet nature was a result of humility, but later I realized it was survival. He'd learned early on that in his mother's world, you either stayed silent or you became one of her subjects. Life was fine, modest, quiet, until the day Mama Grace's empire began to crack. It started with a phone call. Adana, her voice floated through the line, syrupy sweet, "My dear, do you happen to have a credit card?" I frowned. Mama Grace had never called me directly unless it was something important. She preferred to go through Daniel, so the request felt loaded. "Yes," I replied cautiously. "Why?" "Oh, nothing serious. Just a small emergency. I'm hosting the Women's Guild at my place, and my own card has reached its limit. The bank is being slow. But don't worry, I will transfer the money back before you even notice it's gone." I hesitated. I had just cleared some debt, and that card was my emergency lifeline. But Mama Grace had a way of making a no sound like a betrayal. "All right," I said reluctantly. "How much are we talking about?" "Oh, my dear, it's hardly worth mentioning. Just a few purchases for the event. You'll see it in your account by the end of the week." I gave her my card details, a decision I would regret more than anything I had done in my marriage. The first charge came almost immediately. 78,500 Nigerian nairas at an upscale catering company in Lagos. Then another, 55,000 Nigerian nairas for flowers. Then dresses. Shoes. Designer handbags. By the time I got the third notification, my stomach was in knots. It wasn't the amount, though it was enough to make my savings look sickly, it was the fact that she didn't even call to say what she was spending on. Daniel was out when I confronted him that night. "She spent 300,000 Nigerian nairas in one day, Daniel," I said, shoving the receipts in his face. "For a single guild meeting." He sighed, running his hands over his face. "That's my mother. She believes image is everything. I'll talk to her." But talking to Mama Grace was like shouting at the ocean. She heard the sound but let the waves drown it. The guild meeting came and went. I wasn't invited, of course, I wasn't established enough. But photos flooded social media. There she was, wearing a custom silk gown, hair piled high in a bun dripping with gold pins, smiling over a table of imported wine and exotic dishes. Beside her, women in geli and lei sat laughing, the caption reading, "Mama Grace, the epitome of grace and generosity." Not once did she mention where the money had come from. 2 weeks passed without repayment. When I finally called, she sounded mildly offended. "Oh, Adana, my dear. I've been meaning to transfer it. But Daniel's father's account is a bit complicated now. He's reorganizing things." That's when I felt the first chill. "Daniel's father?" I asked slowly. "Why would my card charges be tied to his account?" She laughed, a high, sharp sound. "Because, my dear, everything in this family is interconnected. You'll see." I didn't like the sound of that. 3 days later, Daniel came home with a strange look on his face. "We need to talk," he said, sitting heavily on the couch. "My father called me today. He was furious. Said someone has been charging luxuries to his business expense account." My heart thudded. But I didn't, then the realization hit me. Mama Grace. Daniel nodded grimly. "Apparently, every transaction you made with your card was somehow linked to his company's account through an old arrangement. He said he's not paying a kobo back." I stared at him, horror flooding me. "Wait. You mean your father thinks I am the one spending all that money? Daniel didn't answer, and that silence told me everything. I thought the worst was over. But the real storm began at the next family gathering. The air was thick with the scent of roasted goat meat and palm wine, but under it all, I could taste tension. Daniel's father, Chief Okoro, sat at the head of the table, his jaw tight. Mama Grace was all smiles, greeting everyone as though nothing had happened. When it was my turn to greet the chief, he didn't even look at me. Some people marry into a family and think it's their ticket to a soft life, he said coldly, loud enough for everyone to hear. Spending what they didn't earn. My cheeks burned. The table went silent. Daniel shifted uncomfortably, but his mother kept sipping her wine, eyes fixed on me with the faintest hint of a smirk. That was when I understood, she hadn't just used my card for convenience. She had used it to make me the scapegoat. I left the table, my hands trembling. Later that night, Daniel found me sitting in the guest room, staring at my phone. Why would she do this to me? I whispered. She's always been like this, Daniel said quietly. She thrives on control. And if she can make someone else look bad while she looks good, she will. I swallowed hard. Then I can't just sit here and take it. What do you mean? He asked warily. I met his eyes. I mean, I'm going to find a way to show everyone exactly who she is. And I'm going to do it without ever raising my voice. What I didn't know then was that my chance would come sooner than I expected. And when it did, Mama Grace would have no idea the trap she had walked into until it was too late. My opportunity came in the most unexpected way, a church fundraiser. Our parish was raising money for a new orphanage building, and the Women's Guild, Mama Grace's Kingdom, was in charge of organizing the gala dinner. As soon as I saw the announcement in the bulletin, I knew it was perfect. Mama Grace loved public events. She thrived on being seen as the most generous, most sophisticated woman in the room. And more importantly, she would be desperate to outshine the other women. I played my part carefully. I mentioned in passing to her that I knew a company offering exclusive catering services, the kind that only the truly well-connected could access. I even showed her a mock-up menu, truffle-infused jollof, imported steak, handcrafted desserts. Her eyes lit up. Adana, my dear, this is exactly the kind of thing the guild needs. Imagine the praise we'll get. I pretended to hesitate. It's a little expensive. I'd need to use my card to book them in advance. But this time, I'd really need the money back quickly. She waved her hand dismissively. Of course, of course. I'll handle everything. Just send me the details. And that's when I made the switch. The catering company wasn't real. It was an account I had set up with my own sister, who worked in banking. Every transaction would be logged, not only under my account but also flagged directly to Daniel's father's business expenses because of that same linked arrangement. If Mama Grace used my card again, she'd be digging her own grave, and this time, the evidence would be undeniable. The next week, the charges began to roll in: 250,000 Nigerian nairas for exclusive appetizers, 180,000 Nigerian nairas for premium table settings, 300,000 Nigerian nairas for custom gourmet desserts. I didn't spend a kobo on any of it. The funds were simply redirected to a secure holding account, waiting. And all the while, Mama Grace was strutting through the guild meetings, telling anyone who would listen that she had organized the finest fundraiser in the church's history. The gala night arrived, and the moment I walked in, I could tell something was wrong. The tables were set, but with basic church linens. The food was standard buffet style. The women whispered, confused, glancing at Mama Grace. She kept her composure, telling them the catering company had mixed up the order but that the important thing was raising funds for the orphanage. But I wasn't looking at her. I was watching Daniel's father, who had just received an alert on his phone, the same alert that had once made him glare at me. This time, the transactions had Mama Grace's name directly attached. The moment came during the speech segment. The priest thanked the guild for their efforts, then invited Chief Okoro to say a few words as one of the major donors. He stood slowly, holding his phone. His voice was calm but laced with steel. I want to thank everyone for contributing to this noble cause. But I must also say, it is a disgrace when someone uses charity events as a cover for personal vanity. The room went still. Over 700,000 Nigerian nairas, he continued, was charged to my company account this week. And unlike before, I have proof of exactly whose name is on the receipts. He turned, eyes locking on Mama Grace. Would you care to explain? Her smile froze, then cracked. I stayed in my seat, sipping my drink. This wasn't my victory yet, but the cracks in her throne had just begun to widen. For a long moment, Mama Grace didn't speak. The hall was silent except for the hum of the ceiling fans. I could see the flicker of calculation in her eyes, the same look Daniel once told me she wore whenever she was cornered. Then she laughed. It wasn't her warm, social laugh. It was sharp and brittle. Chief, my dear, there must be some mistake. Why would I charge anything to your account? I paid for everything myself. But Chief Okoro was already scrolling through his phone. With this card? He asked, turning the screen toward the audience. There it was, my card number, her name on the merchant receipt, and the exact timestamps. A murmur ran through the room. One of the guild women, her gilly tilted slightly to the side, leaned forward. But Mama Grace, you told us you had arranged the most expensive catering company in the city. Where is the food? Where are the decorations? More murmurs followed, growing louder. The carefully woven image of Mama Grace's generosity was unraveling in front of everyone. She turned to me then, her voice tightening. Adana, tell them. Tell them this is some kind of misunderstanding. I met her gaze calmly. I told you the company would bill my card directly. You agreed to pay it back. I never saw the money. Her face paled. She must have realized that the catering company she had been paying didn't exist. She had walked straight into the snare. The priest stepped forward, clearly uncomfortable. This is a fundraiser for orphans, not a place for personal disputes. But if funds have been misused, they have been, Chief Okoro cut in sharply. And I will ensure it is investigated properly. Mama Grace's composure cracked completely. She began sputtering excuses, blaming the bank, claiming hackers, even suggesting the receipts were fabricated. But no one was listening. The women she had sought to impress were now whispering and shaking their heads. By the end of the night, she slipped out quietly, avoiding everyone's eyes. The once unshakable queen of the guild had left her crown on the table. At home, Daniel closed the door behind us and leaned against it, exhaling deeply. You planned this, he said finally, looking at me with a mixture of awe and disbelief. I didn't make her spend the money, I replied. I just made sure the truth had nowhere to hide. Over the next week, the fallout spread quickly. Word got around the church. The guild quietly replaced her as treasurer. Chief Okoro demanded she repay the full amount. Daniel's younger siblings stopped defending her blindly. Mama Grace avoided me entirely. When we crossed paths at a family gathering weeks later, her eyes slid past me as if I were a stranger. And for the first time, I didn't mind. Sometimes, revenge doesn't come in shouting matches or slammed doors. Sometimes, it's quiet. Precise. You let the other person dig the hole themselves, and then simply hand them the shovel. I learned something important from Mama Grace: image can be a powerful weapon. But unlike her, I also learned that image means nothing if the truth is strong enough to stand without it. In the end, she lost more than money. She lost the one thing she valued above all, the admiration of those around her. And that was a debt she could never repay.